Hey everybody, Cheryl here, and I wanted to share with you guys a experience I had this week at the doctor. I went to learn some more about my psoriasis, what we could do to treat it internally. Now, I'm sharing this not because of the medical issues. It has to do with the communication or the lack thereof within that doctor's office. First of all, let me say biopsy has come back. Everything is psoriasis, not an issue. But here's the thing, when he said the word biopsy, I almost quit breathing. This was my first visit into his office, my very first one. Psoriasis is a skin condition. I've watched it spread out over my body over the last 6 years, and they keep wanting to treat it topical. So as the consumer, I had to put my foot down and say, quit. The topical's not working. This is an internal problem. You've told me it was caused by nerves after taking care of my father until he died. You've told me the root cause. Now let's treat the root cause and let's quit addressing just the symptoms. Now, here's the thing with that whole scenario. First of all, when I walked into the office, the receptionist made it very clear that she needed my insurance card, so on and so on and so forth. She didn't ask my budget. She didn't ask how much I wanted to spend or how much time I could be there. She had a particular goal, and that was to find out if I had insurance and how the payment would be made. So there was clarity on that end of it. So then they send me back to a room, and the nurse comes in and starts bombarding me with questions, which was fine. These questions were about what I was there for, so on and so on and so forth. Now, she leaves the room, gives me a piece of paper, tells me to fill it out. Doctor comes in, and he says, okay, so here's what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, he says the word biopsy. And when he said the word biopsy, pretty much my brain shut down. And it shut down because it scared me. Now, that's pretty extreme when you want to compare it to hair, when we're talking about life-saving versus hair-saving. But it's the communication that was the problem. He didn't tell me, in order for me to find out about your psoriasis and how to treat it best, we need to do a biopsy. He just said, okay, we're going to do a biopsy. And when he said that word biopsy, I shut down. Scared the bejesus out of me. When you say to your client, I can't, or your hair won't, they begin to shut down. And they don't hear a whole lot of what you say afterwards. Be honest with them. I'm not talking about bullshit here. I'm not talking about you bullshitting them. I'm talking about you approaching them with honesty in such a manner that it does not shut them down and make them want to get up and leave because they're afraid. They're afraid you can't do it. They're afraid it can't be done. They're afraid their hair's going to be screwed up, so on and so on and so forth. We say things like, well, I told them it was going to be a process. Think about how many times they've heard the word process. Probably thousands. Oh, have a seat right here. I'll get you a cup of coffee while your color processes. Oh, we're just going to let this process for 30 minutes. Oh, see all the different ways we use the word process? So now the game behind the chair has changed. And it does take a process. Sometimes it takes 3 or 4 visits. We don't want to scare them off the first visit. We don't want to disappoint them the first visit. So we have to find better ways of opening the line of communications and getting them to tell the truth about their hair color. Not that any client would ever lie to you about their color. But here's the key thing about that. They're not lying about their color to lie. They're lying about the color because they don't understand the relevance. And if their hair is longer than mine, or even the length of mine, they don't understand that something they put on there 6 months to 2 years ago is very relevant to what happens today. All of these are things pertaining to the communication within the client. All of them. And it is important that you drive this conversation, that you drive it with honesty, that you drive it with confidence, that you drive it without fear of what's going to happen. Even when it comes to the money part of it. I had one yesterday. I had to stop and say, okay, here's the reality of what's going to happen. Here's the journey we're about to go on. Pull up that picture again that you showed me. And I'm going to show you a picture of what your hair is going to look like when we get done today. And I want you to see the difference before we ever start. So I stood there and I held the two phones, and she had a little bit of a deer in the headlight look. And I said, you got too much going on in your hair for it to come out like this and still stay on your head. My concern is with the integrity of your hair. So I'm going to approach it with you looking beautiful in mind. This is what we can achieve today based on what's on your hair. Not based on my knowledge, not based on these chemicals, based on what you brought to the table. It is what they brought to the table. That's what I have to deal with, and that's what I have to communicate with them. So it's really, really, really important that we say these things to them. I don't have time for BS. So when it comes to the money part of it, I said to her, because she was a teenager and she had her mother's check. Woo, that sounds like fun, right? I said to her, here's how much it's going to cost. And she looked again, and I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to call your mom, and I'm going to step out of the way. This is a conversation that I don't belong in. But this is what it's going to take. This is how long it's going to take. And if you're willing to sit there, she's willing to pay the price, I say we get started. But we need clarity first. And I handed her a phone and I walked out of the room. When I came back, her mom said, that's fine. You do whatever it takes to make her hair look great and healthy. We'll take it from there. She'll be back. She'll be back for the next part and for the next step on our journey. And I never once used the word process. You understand? Find your way. Find your comfort zone. Say it to them. Say what needs to be said. Don't undercut yourself financially. Just don't do it. If they get out of your chair because they have decided that they don't want to spend that much time and that much money on their hair, you are far better off for them to get up out of the chair and replace it. Yes, you might have lost some money at that moment, but weigh that one out. Weigh it out completely. If you have time to answer nasty text messages, defend yourself on social media, if you have time to repair damaged hair, if you have time for all of that, then you have time to let them get up out of your chair and go somewhere else if they can't go along with the parameters that you've set to create beautiful, healthy hair. Plain and simple. They've got a budget, and I've got a living to make. We both have a choice to make. I'm going to choose the pathway to them having successful hair. They're going to choose where they spend their money. But at the end of the day, when they get out of my chair, their money is going to be spent valuably based on what they brought to the table. I hope this helps you think about your communication. Follow me on Instagram at color1up. That's COLOR, the number 1 and the letters up. And on Facebook at Cheryl Walters Seagraves. And on YouTube at Cheryl Seagraves. I think we got too much social media stuff going on. But I sincerely hope this helps. And I will see you guys very soon. Have a great day.